I've come back to make sense of all things pertaining to menopause. I'm Menopause Taylor, and that's what I do. If you watched the last video, you know that I presented all the research studies that have gotten us to where we are today with regard to HRT and heart attacks. And you saw that research studies can be confusing. And even more confusing than the research studies themselves are the reactions people have to them. In the case of studies on HRT and heart attacks, the results of only an occasional study are revealed to the public. For every study about which you hear something, there are hundreds of others about which you hear nothing. So you really only get a tiny piece of the big picture. And you don't hear about studies from your doctor or from the researchers themselves. You hear about them from the media. That's unfortunate because the media have no background in medicine. And sometimes the way in which the information is revealed to the public may or may not be accurate in terms of the details of the actual study. This is precisely what has occurred with regard to studies on HRT and heart attacks. And it's caused great confusion for women, fear of litigation for physicians, and withholding of HRT for menopause as a result of both. So today's video is going to erase the confusion. There are just too many people perpetuating the confusion and the fear, and not enough erasing it. And that's why it's a good thing that you're watching this video tutorial. If you're following along in my book, regardless of whether you have the first edition or the second edition, you won't find this particular topic as an isolated presentation in the chapter on heart attack. Instead, you will find that chapter 34 is on research in general, and that's the chapter that will most closely associate with what we're doing today. In last week's video, I walked you through the series of research studies that have shaped our current understanding of the effect of HRT on your heart. Here's a chart of those studies. What you see in the first column is dates. The second column has the names or acronyms of the various studies. The third column designates the objective of each study. The fourth column shows the findings of the study. And the last column shows you the current knowledge at the time. The first three rows detail only the current knowledge at the time because there hadn't yet been any research. And the basic message was that heart attacks in women did not occur until after postmenopause, regardless of their age at that time. The next two rows show that from the mid-1900s until the early 1990s, hormone replacement was routine, and women who received hormone replacement had a much lower risk of heart attack. So this is when research began to discover why that was the case. Next, you see that the EPAT study in 1998 showed that HRT prevents atherosclerosis. Then, the PEPI study from 1998 to 2000 showed that HRT improves lipids and blood pressure. But after that, the ERA study showed that HRT cannot reverse atherosclerosis. And that was followed by both the HERS and WellHeart studies showing that HRT cannot prevent heart attack in women who already have atherosclerosis. And that's what set the stage for the infamous WHI, which erroneously concluded that HRT caused heart attacks. But after years of reanalyzing the data, it became obvious that early use of HRT did prevent heart attacks, while late use of HRT could cause heart attacks. And because this one study was misreported initially, indicating that HRT causes heart attacks, everybody reacted strongly and discontinued use of HRT. And even though there has been reanalysis that shows the initial reports were all wrong, you never got that information. The vast majority of women have only heard about the WHI study. And unfortunately, all they ever heard about it was the erroneous initial reports from the media. That's why I've made it in red on this chart. Now, In addition to all the stuff you do hear or don't hear about research, if you request HRT from your doctor in your annual 10-minute appointment, he or she is usually going to respond with a quick, "You know about the risk of heart attack, don't you?" They don't have time to really discuss it, and yet they feel obligated to warn you of the risks. But they don't feel the need to tell you of the benefits. All doctors swear to do no harm when they become doctors. And ironically, the perception is that you do less harm by doing nothing, or in this case, prescribing nothing, than by doing something, or in this case, informing you of all the pros and cons and giving you the prescription. And even if your doctor tells you that the benefits outweigh the risks for you with regard to HRT and heart attacks, when you get home and open the package of HRT, you find this. And it scares you to death because it says that HRT causes heart attacks, and that confuses you even more. So the confusion about HRT and heart attacks derives from various sources. First, everybody believed that HRT prevents heart attacks. Then, everybody believed that HRT causes heart attacks. Your doctor says HRT prevents heart attacks, and the package insert says that HRT causes heart attacks. All the while, you see women having heart attacks once they become postmenopausal, but you don't know if they were taking HRT or avoiding HRT. And you're left wondering why there is so much conflicting information. Which is it? Does HRT prevent heart attacks or does it cause heart attacks? What's going on? How have we gotten here? Well, that's what I'll clear up today. You know how some things depend on context? I mean, last week I used an example of a marble on a surface. If you want to know if a marble rolls on a surface, it depends on context. If the surface is flat, the marble does not roll. But if the surface is slanted, it does. So the context is something that is absolutely critical to the outcome, but it is not an apparent part of the question. That's exactly what has caused the confusion about HRT and heart attacks. It all depends on context. Another way to say this is that the answers to your questions are not always as simple as you want to make them. In law, the answer to every question is, it depends. Everything depends on the situation. Well, unfortunately, you live in a world of sound bites. You hear little bits of information here and there and everywhere, but you never get the whole story. It's as if people don't have time to hear the whole story, and the people telling the story don't have time to tell the whole story. Everybody wants the 30-second version of the story. Or maybe it's an attention deficit problem. As a whole, the human attention span has gotten shorter. And that's fine for some things, but it's not fine for understanding HRT and heart attacks. Sometimes you just have to hear the whole story. That's why I take the time to make these videos. And they are not 5-minute videos because I give you the whole story. So here's the whole story on HRT and heart attacks. And surprisingly, I'll make it short to accommodate our soundbite 30-second attention deficit world. It's all about the context. The answer to the question, does HRT prevent heart attacks or cause heart attacks, depends on whether you're early in your postmenopause or late in your postmenopause. If you're early in your postmenopause and you haven't gone without estrogen long enough for your arteries to have hardened, then HRT prevents that hardening from occurring and prevents a heart attack. Remember this, If you're in your early postmenopause and your arteries are still soft and supple like this, then estrogen keeps them soft and supple like this, and that reduces your risk for a heart attack. But if you're in your late menopause and your arteries are already hard, then estrogen can't do anything to make them soft and supple again. So if your arteries are already like this, or heaven forbid, like this, estrogen cannot help you. And in that context, it can even hurt you because your arteries just aren't used to estrogen anymore. Sometimes something that used to be beneficial becomes risky over time. Here's an analogy. Let's say you used to be a runner, and back then, running was easy, pleasant, and beneficial to your health. But if you then undergo a lot of aging and acquire some of the diseases of aging, running becomes more risky than beneficial. So running was good for you at one time, but later it became bad for you. Running hasn't changed. It's what it always was. You're what's changed. And what's changed you is aging. That's how it works with estrogen and heart attacks. This is called the timing hypothesis. The timing hypothesis is what the estrogen window of opportunity is all about. So if you begin taking estrogen in the first 5 to 10 years of your postmenopause, before your arteries have become too hard, it can prevent a heart attack. But if you don't take estrogen in the first 5 to 10 years of your postmenopause, your arteries become too hard, and taking estrogen can actually cause a heart attack. So while it may sound like there is conflicting information, or that there are different opinions, or that there is confusion on the matter, there really isn't. It's just that you only heard part of the story. If you only heard about the WHI and no other studies, you only heard part of the study. If you only heard the early reports of the WHI and never heard the updates of all the reanalyses, you only heard part of the story. If the only thing your doctor said to you when you requested HRT was, "You know about the risks of heart attack," you only heard part of the story. And if you only saw the package insert and all its warnings about heart attack, you only heard part of the story. You deserve the whole story, and that's why I teach like this. When it comes to HRT and heart attacks, the benefits and risks all have to do with context. In the last video, I dwelled on 3 terms that are absolutely critical to your understanding of the effect of HRT on heart attacks, and I'm going to reiterate them here. They are prevent, cause, and treat. Prevent means that you inhibit the disease from developing in the first place. It pertains to young, healthy women who have no heart disease. Cause means that you take something that begins the process of disease development. It pertains to starting the disease process or making the situation worse. Treat means that you take something to reverse the disease process. It pertains to improving the disease process and making it less severe once you already have the disease. These 3 terms are all about timing. And that's exactly what the effect of HRT on heart attacks is all about, timing. So here's a timeline to demonstrate the different effects of HRT based on time. The bottom line is that HRT can prevent a heart attack if you start it early in your postmenopause. And the farther you get from your early postmenopause, the more likely it is that starting HRT will cause a heart attack. And please focus on the word start. Once you're on HRT, it will continue to prevent a heart attack as long as you continue to take it. So I hope this has served to clear up the confusion, and it should make perfect sense. If it doesn't and you still have questions, ask them in the comment box. If your question has to do with your personal situation, schedule a one-on-one consultation. Sometimes I get questions in the comment box that I just can't address properly in a comment box. They require more than I can write in a comment box. And I hope you realize that I write a lot in a comment box. I've been told that my answers are off the charts as far as length and quality of information. So anytime I can give you the information you need in the comment box, I will. And anytime I can, I'll tell you you need a consultation. And you just go to menopausetailor.me to schedule. I will never shortchange you. You deserve thorough answers, full understanding, and tailoring of the information to your personal situation. And that's what I'll give you. And that's it for today. Next week, I'll talk about heart attack after stopping HRT. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to my channel. See you next week. Bye.